Hi guys, welcome to the eighth session on shell scripting for DBS. So we are into the fourth chapter, that is conditions and interactive scripts. So the first part of this complete chapter, that is this particular session, will completely speak about only two things. One is if conditions and case. So case is one of the clauses just like if. As we know, if is something which you must have seen so far in any of the languages. Consider a basic language like C++, because I'll only refer to that because I hope every engineer would have a basic knowledge on how a C language works. So even in C language, we had if conditions where, in the if, how does it actually work is in the if you give a comparison or you give a command, if that basically falls true, it will execute this set of test commands. If it is yeah, this is what the test commands which will test that if it is falling true, then consequent commands will be executed. And if clause will also actually include else as well. That means whatever you say here in the if clause, if that condition is true, yes, everything in the then clause will actually work or will be executed. But if this is false, then definitely else will be executed. And to come to the if condition syntax in the shell scripting, you can give if clause like if and your condition followed by colon, and then after then if you wanted the consecutive consequent commands, you don't need colon, but after that you need to give semicolon and then fi. That means reverse of if. So if spells as if you say fi, that says that end of the if block. But you would have seen in other languages, like if you have knowledge on PLSQL programming as well, in that if clause will be ended with end. So you have to just type end to basically end the loop of if. So here the in shell scripting, it is it's a reverse of what you give in the if. If you say if will end only when you write it reverse order like this. And we will be actually using the expressions like this, as I said in the test commands, whatever you wanted to actually compare. If you wanted to compare with the help of the expressions, there are multiple primary expressions that you can use. -a followed by file name, -b followed by file name, and -c followed by file name, e, f, g, h. There is no ij, but k, p, r, s, t, u, w, x, uppercase o, g, l, n, s, and file 1 not equals to file 2, file 1 and older than file 2, and file 1 in the less than less than or equals to the inode numbers of file 2, and option name if it is enabled or not, z if the string is 0, and n non-zero. And definitely if you want to compare two strings, you can use string 1 double is equals to and string 2. And if you want to compare strings, if they are not equals to, then exclamatory and then is equals to. Less than is to check the sorts of string 2, less than string 1, and similarly string 1 greater than string 2. And if you wanted combined expressions to be used, this is how you use. And if expression 1 and also expression 2 both are true, then you have to use -a. It is like AND gate. And if you have expression 1 and expression 2, if either of these two expressions are true, this is something like OR. So I'm sure that I have very quickly ran from these expressions, but I will explain you with the help of example what are these expressions are actually meant for you. So to help you explaining these expressions, I'm giving you a very small if block, and this if block I'm trying to execute it inside a script so that you understand inside the script how does this if block will work. So I'll take time to explain you how does this if whatever script I'm going to write works, and that in turn tells you what is the meaning of all these tables and what does it actually mean to you, and when is that you have to use and all. You can actually take the decision after I explain some of the activities in this in this set of examples. So let me connect to my server. So it's 12 CM. So this is my database server. So I'm just connecting to it, and then I will redirect myself to my directory, and then I'm creating the script called checkfile.sh. So in this, I will write something like this and I'll explain after writing it so that you understand it better. And now I will cat this. Alright, so what is the script that I have written? So I'm telling that this script has to be executed in the bash shell, that's fine. And I'm just echoing a message. This script checks the existence of the messages file. And also I'm telling that it is about to check now. In the if clause, I have just passed -f. Please remember, if followed by some space, then square braces followed by space, and then expression followed by space, and then close the braces. This is very, very important. If you don't give spaces for the braces, it doesn't actually work. So what is it I'm telling in the if clause? Just check if the file existing -f. Now come back to the tabular. Where did I use -f? Now if you see here -f and then file name, if you say, it will return true if the file is existing and if the file is a regular file. It is not a block special file or a character special file, or it is not a directory. It is just a file, and if that file is a regular file, I'm just trying to use this primary expressions to identify if the file is existing or not using the if clause. What is that I said? Yes, -f. Check whether this file is existing or not. If it is existing, then tell me that it is exist. And if it is not existing, tell me that it doesn't exist. And if after executing the if clause, say here, it starts with if and ends with fi. And then I'm saying echo, that means nothing, it will be displayed, an empty line will be displayed, and then I'll be saying done. So now what I'll do is, I'll give some executable permissions to this check file, and then if I just execute, see how does it work. See, first echo, yes, this script checks the existence of the message file. It is checking and it is saying that yes, it is existing. And now let us actually change this file and give some file name which is not existing and see that if it is working or not. So instead of messages, I'll just say messag. Now I'll cat this for your login reference. Now if I run this, it should tell me that this file is not existing. See? Yes. So -f is something which is used to check whether the file is existing or not. Definitely this might be one of the reasons or one of the requirements whenever you are scripting something. Before you consider a file will be existing, it is always good that you cross verify whether file is existing and then take appropriate actions after confirming that file is existing. So how do you do? With simply -f in the if block. That's how we do. Let us go to the next example that will give you much more insight about what is -o. -o is what I said that, option name. That means one of the option names is like no cobbler. That means if you wanted to check whether whatever file you are trying to run, whether it has got some protection against accidental overwriting using redirection, the option is no clobber. No clobber. So if you just say this, it will basically gives you nothing on the screen because you are not running this in a script. You are just running it outside the script, and as you see here, there is no else clause. If you wanted else clause also here, see here what you do. That means your script is not protected actually at the moment, and I would say that at the moment if you see no clobber, then it is protected. If you don't see no clobber in the file name, your files are not protected. Now if you see this, how does it work? If I see, what is that you see? Your files are not protected because this is not, you are not running this if clause as a part of a script, and that script doesn't actually been edited to protect your file against accidental overwriting. So that's the reason you don't see this as protected at all. Alright, this is another way. And another thing is exit status. As I have shown you in the earlier sessions, $? will basically tell you whether your earlier command has been executed successfully or not. Now because my earlier command was the complete if block, if that is executed successfully or not, I can see on the screen saying that yes, your earlier command has been executed successfully. But I will show you with a very good example. I'm saying that grep oracle from this one. That means if oracle is found in this file, then it has to tell me that it has executed successfully. See here now, see yes. Earlier command has been executed successfully because I found the username called oracle in this file. But in case if it doesn't find, so I have another word like this. As you see on the screen, I'm trying to go and search for something called aura uppercase C. It is not found in this particular file. So what is that it is showing you on the screen? Earlier command did not execute successfully. So instead of going to if clause, it is going to the else clause. So what I'm trying to say is $? Is something we have seen already earlier. The same is used here. So as you see in the screen, $? Will capture the return values of the earlier command. I'm comparing that value with numeric called 0. If it is 0, if the earlier command output is 0, then this one has to be executed. But if the earlier command output is not equals to 0, then this one has to be executed. So this is how I can verify whether my earlier command has been executed successfully or not with $? Alright? Now, the same thing, in case if you don't want this command to be separate and if you wanted to include this one right away in the if clause, you can also do that here. See, this is how you can do. Just say if followed by not equals to. See here, if not equals to grep, then echo user does not exist. But as the user exists, because I used exclamatory, that means it's a reverse of it. If you just say if followed by grep this one, then echo user exists, because you are trying to see that without the colon. So else echo user doesn't exist. This is how you can use it. And you say done, sorry, fi, you're done. So he says user exists. And in case if you have a very different name, Entra is trying to show you with a wrong or with a non-existing user whether it functions correctly or not. I'll show you here. Excuse me. And now yes, and yes, it should tell me that user does not exist. See, that's good. So you can directly give the grep within the if also without using $? So out of these two things, which one is the better way? This is the better way, because less number of lines that you are writing the code and more, you are trying to optimize your complete scripting skills as well. But do not worry, you will not, don't worry to be more optimized in the scripting right away from the first day. But make sure you are comfortable in scripting, though scripting can be done for the same job in 10 lines and also in 5 lines. But don't worry if you are taking 15 lines also to actually first of all write something to execute your script. But later on you can optimize that 15 lines to 5 lines once you are very much once you got hands-on the complete scripting knowledge. So that's where I believe, and it works definitely for you as well. All right, and next thing is, in case if you want to work with numerics, yes, this is what very important. Greater than -gt, less than -lt, greater than or equals to -ge, less than or equals to -le, and equals to is -eq, not equals to is -ne. So please remember all these things. Now what is it I'm trying to say is, just consider numeric is equals to word count -l revenues. So revenues is a file in which revenues is a file in which how many lines are there? There are 5 lines in revenues. Alright, so I'm saying how many lines are there in the revenues, just go and capture them into numeric. Now after getting this, just try to verify whether it is greater than 4 or not. If it is greater than 4, okay, because here it is only 5 revenues is what you can see on the screen, but I have to now see here word count -l. Okay, now I would say this like this: cat revenues and then word count -l. This is another way of doing it. And now if I say echo number, it should only have a numeric in it. Now for this numeric, if I just copy paste, sorry, here there is some problem. Okay, then echo, where is the problem? Syntax error here. Okay, yeah, I got it now. So just say this, let us execute it step by step, then echo, and then echo condition is true. And yeah, this is where the problem I understood, because we have got a special character here, and condition is false. Fi. Now you say condition is true because 5 is greater than 4. That's for the reason condition is true here. But if you run the same thing with less than 4, you will say get condition is false, because number is a variable that we have run before with the value as 5. Because you have seen the number of lines in the file called revenues, the number of lines in this file is only 5. So that's how this works. So let me correct this one here as well, so that you don't face any issues later. Alright. Right. If you wanted to use strings in the comparison, here you are comparing numeric value, variable with numeric value with another numeric value. In case if you want to compare it with string, this is what you can use it. And instead of this, I would say, because exit will basically kick you off from the putty session, so that's the reason I'm not using it. I'm just running this directly to show you. You have no permission to run bash as a non-root user. That means, you know what is the command called whoami, right? So the command whoami will tell you which user you have logged into the operating system. As you said $, and you give this in the braces, just go back to the expansions that we have learned earlier. Whenever you give some command in $ and in the braces, this command will be executed on the operating system command line console, and that value will be pulled here. So what happened here is, if Oracle is not equal to root, that's what comparison happened. Because it is not equals to root, that means condition is true now. Because the condition is true, it is saying that echo, you have no permission to run. $0 will tell with what bash you have run. So bash as non-root user, because this has been ran with the bash shell. So that's the reason you see $0 as bash. If you run this inside the script, you will get the script name there. Alright, this is how you can keep using if clauses. And in the next one, we are going to see how do we use this if clause in advanced way. When I say advancedly, taking user line, command line arguments, and also using else if. So else if, how do we use, and what are the different examples to show you else if? This is what we are going to see. So let me show you first of all, how do we make use of command line arguments to be passed. Now, to explain this, I would basically feel very comfortable in writing the script and then explaining you with the help of the functionality of it. So I'm writing a script like this, and after writing the script, I will explain you what is this script and what does it execute. So if you just say cat wait.sh, see here, I am just passing, this is the variable name called wait. The value of this variable called wait is nothing but $1. That means whatever argument you pass in the first position after this wait.sh, that will be the variable 1. Hope the same thing has been covered earlier also. And whatever second argument that you are passing to this script, that is given to the value of the variable height. And now after that, what I am doing is, what is that your ideal wait should be is your height, whatever you give in centimeters, minus 110. And now what is that I am doing in the if clause? If your actual weight is less than or equals to the ideal weight, then you should eat a bit more fat. That means to increase your fat and to come to ideal weight. But if your ideal weight is greater than the your weight, if it is greater than the ideal weight, then you should eat a bit more fruits to reduce your weight. As simple as that. So if it is less, your actual weight, whatever you give the weight, if that weight is less than the ideal weight that it calculates for your height, then you are okay. You can also eat fat to come to that level. But if your weight is greater than the ideal weight, that is nothing but else clause, it will just tell that you have to eat more. So let me show you that with the help of the example and also in the debug mode. Now we know that to run a script in debug mode, there are different ways. You can use set-x or run this as bash-x. Now I'm saying that my weight is 55 and my height is 169 centimeters. Now for my existing weight and for my height, whether I am under controlled weight or not is what we will see. What is that it is saying? You should eat a bit more. That means my weight 55 is less than the ideal weight that I should be. That is 59 for my height. Now, because we have given in the debug mode, see what is happening exactly. This is the first command. I'm saying weight is equals to $1. Because $1 that I have passed is 55, it has assigned weight is equals to 55 inside the script. We are able to see this because we have, given this as a debug mode. And similarly, height is equals to 169 because I said $2. That's the reason I can see here as 169. And then in the if clause, what is that I'm saying? $weight less than or equals to $ideal weight. So 55 less than or equals to 59 is what it has actually executed. Because this condition falls to true, then this is the echo command that has been executed. All this has been ignored. And what is the output now? You should eat a bit more fat. And now I will again edit this particular script with much more complexity in it. So after taking up these things, I just wanted to add and verify every time a user passes only 2 variables to it. Okay, before I change it, let me show you what is the problem with this script. If I run this script with any other values also, after 169 if I give 100, even then this works. There is no problem. But how can I limit user to only give 2 variables or 2 arguments to this script? That is also very important, right? So that's where now let me edit the script to make sure user always gives only 2 arguments. If he gives more than 2 arguments, it should exit. So now if you see here, before I execute this, the first thing I'm checking is, so where is it? The first thing let me check is if $hash is not equals to 2. That means you can either use not equals to 2 or exclamatory $hash is equals to 2 also. This is another way. I did it little reverse, but excuse me for that. You can also do it like this. So let me not confuse you. You can say $hash is not equals to. You can also do this. So this is one way. What is that you are saying? We know that from the earlier discussions that we had, $hash will tell how many number of arguments did you pass through the script. You are saying if the arguments are not equals to 2, that means if it is less than 2 or greater than 2, then definitely you have to exit, telling that usage is only by giving kilos, weight in kilos and height in centimeters. That's it. Apart from that, you cannot pass in any arguments of your wish. Now let me cat it for your wish. And now if I execute this, see here, if I execute earlier way, it works fine, no problem. But if I add anything else to it, 100, it doesn't execute. See, it is just telling us that number of arguments that you have passed are 3, which is not equals to 2. That's the reason I echo the message whatever you give and I exit at that point of time. That means I'm not going to execute further because it falls true in the condition that you have given in the first if block, and you have also said to exit out of the shell once it executes this echo. This is how I can limit the user, telling him that you have to only pass 2 variables to it. First variable is your weight in kilos and the next variable is your height in centimeters. That's it. You're not allowed to pass any other arguments to the script. This is how you can control them. Alright. Now let us see how can I use else if constructs. You know what is else if, right? If you have condition number 1, if that falls true, yes, you have consequent comments. But if you have any other conditions also, and for which you have other more consequent commands to be executed, that means if you have 2 to 3 conditions, not just 2 conditions, if you have 3 conditions to be executed, for which you have 3 different set of commands to execute, then definitely else if is the first one, which is very, very important for you to understand in shell scripting. But just like your C language, it is not else if, but here it is elif. That's it. ELIF. And then the syntax would be always the same. Even elif will also have the then clause, but else will never have then clause. Please remember that. And let me explain you with the help of a simple example. But before that, I have a very tricky script for you called disktest.sh. So let me actually show you what does this mean. But it is not using else if. It is only a tricky script that will help you to identify how, how did I make one variable so complex. You can see that the first thing that I'm doing in this shell script is assigning a value to the variable called space. So what is it exactly running on the script? It is only running this command. That's it. So what is it running actually? You have to understand whatever it is doing out of all these pipes. It is very important for you to divide this part into number of fields and then understand what is it doing. So let me help you to do that. First is it is executing df-h. With this input, you're also passing to only see the fifth column in this complete output. So in the fifth column, you have use percentage and then all the percentages here. And with the third one, you're only grepping everything with the word called grep, percentage. So every line with percentage is what you will be able to see on the screen. Yes, each and every line has got percentage in it. And I'm saying grep-v use, wherever you have use, just exclude that line. So that means in this, the first line will be excluded. See? Yes. After that, I'm saying sort it with the numbers, whatever you find in the output. When you say sort it with the numbers, it will do ascending order. Now if you say sort -n, it will do an ascending order. That means the last one will be the top one. And I'm saying tail -1. So tail -1 will tell me to only take the last one as the output. Yes, see, 69 is the output. Now with the 69 as the output, you just remove the percentile there. Because it is in the form of percentage, just remove that percentage. So, and then tell me what is the actual number. So with this very big command with very huge, pipes, what is that I got exactly at the end? I found the largest mount point on the system. The largest utilized mount point on the system. So if you see here df-h, what is that I have achieved with this is, out of all these mount points on the system, I found the mount point which is the most utilized mount point. That's it. That is where I actually redirected the output to the variable called space. So now what will be the value of space? 69. So if 69 is greater than 80, then it will be saying at least one of my disks is nearly full. You have to basically check the, you have to check to go and replace the disk. That's what it says. It is saying mail. That means you will get a mail with this is the subject as an email. But I don't want to go that into detail. So what I'll do is I'll basically remove this mail one. It will only display saying that, excuse me. It will only display saying that at least one of your disks is nearly full only if space is greater than 80, greater than or equals to. But now it is 69, which is less than or equals to 80. That means it has to only execute disk space is normal. Hope now you got what is that it exactly does. So now let me copy this for you and replace it in the script so that I don't use mail function at all. So what is the script name that I gave? So disk test. So I'll go to the first line, delete everything, D uppercase G, and then insert mode and insert this. Now if I execute this, see here, so you can execute with bash followed by disk test sh. See here, your disk space is normal because the largest mount point that you have got on the system is 69, but you are comparing it with the variable value as 80. Now if you replace the alert value as 60, definitely you will get message saying that at least one of the disk is nearly full. Shall we do that? Let's do it. And in here, if I say alert value is equals to 60. Now, oh my god, sorry, cat disk test. And now if I execute this, it should say that one of the disks is filling up. See, at least one of my disks is nearly full. That means it is crossing my 60% of threshold that I have set. So this is how you can make use of, this is a complex script that I wanted to show you with multiple pipes. How do I basically go and figure out the largest mount point on the file system? That's it. Now let me actually show you how does if else if clause works with leap year test. I have a program or a script which will test whether the current year is leap year or not. How does it do is what I'll show you. But this one is to only explain you not else if. This is to explain you nested if clauses. So what is it I'm telling? First of all, execute date. Okay, let me show you this one after the other. So let me cat it first. And in here, first thing is date plus percentile y will tell you the current date. So I am giving this value called 2016 into a variable called 2016. So I am dividing this with 400, and if it is equals to 0 when I divide this, then this is a leap year. February has got 29 days. Else if you are dividing with 4 and then your remainder is equals to 0, then you have two other conditions, right? And if you are again dividing with 100 and if it is not equals to 0, then this is a leap year, and if it is not, it's not a leap year. So I'm using nested loops and also else if loops. Alright, because you basically execute, if you have a knowledge on how do we calculate the leap year, then definitely you would get this. But what is that I'm trying to concentrate is, because you can use nested if clauses and you can use else if, this is very much helpful. Is 2016 a leap year? Definitely don't worry of thinking about it. This will tell us whether it is leap year or not. Now it is saying yes, this is a leap year. February has got 29 days. Is it true? Yes, definitely. 2016 is a leap year and we have got 29 days in February. So definitely it is working fine. And if you give, for example, if you want to test it good, you can say year is equals to 2015 and then see if it is working fine or not, because it has to say that this is not a leap year, because 2015 is not a leap year, isn't it? So let me actually hard code this value to year is equals to just 2015. If I say year is equals to 2015, let me cat it for you, and then if I execute it, it should say me that this is not a leap year. February has only 28 days. Excellent, isn't it? This is how you can nest. You can use if clauses in nested way. That means if clause, within the if clause, the another if clause, and also else if clauses. Alright. Okay, I have exit numbers. How do we using exit numbers in the if clauses is also another thing that I have to add. So let me actually create a script with this completely, and then let me explain you. Vi exit test.sh, and if I write a script like this, and then I will be explaining you what is that exactly. So I have the script. First thing is I'm capturing the first argument that I pass into menu, second argument that I pass into animal. If the menu is fish, then this block will be executed. If the menu is not fish, then this block will be executed. Now let me actually show you exit, and now if I say menu as fish, that's fine, but input either it has to be penguin or dolphin. If it is penguin, you will see this as an output. If it is dolphin, you will see this as an output. So first let me say penguin and verify. Yes, this is the output. See the beauty? Because first argument is fish, it will only go to this block. All this is avoided. And within this, I'm again saying in the if block, check for the animal. If it is penguin, execute this. If it is dolphin, execute this. So let me show you after fish. If I say dolphin, it has to give me that. But apart from these two, if you tell any other things like whale, it will give you some output on the screen like this. That is what in the else clause. Alright. Now if you say, if you don't say if the $1, if menu is not fish. Now see here, if menu is not fish, if it is something else like whale, menu is whale, and then if you say penguin, then you say yes, ducks don't like it, ducks wants fish. So you are saying something, it is not fish, and you are saying it is penguin. So because the condition falls true in the else first, and this is what executed, and the exit 1. What does exit 1 means? Exit 1 means the return code that is generated is 1. That's what it means. Now if you say whale and then dolphin, it will show you the echo value as this, but exit is 2. When I say exit is 2, that means the $? Value has become 2 for it. Similarly, if you say something else like this, whale and whale, and now if you see, yes, you are definitely seeing the echo value, but what does exit followed by value shows you? The $? Value of the earlier command is whatever you pass in here. That's the beauty of it. So you can even control, and you can say whether your earlier command has been successfully executed or not. If you are passing for the exit command, if you are passing some non-numeric value, definitely it says that the earlier command did not execute successfully for you. Correct. And you can call this function and you can use this value outside the loop, and then you can basically try working on it. Right? In case if you are very much dependent on the exit values of each and every if condition here, if or else if, this is how you can basically use exit clauses. Okay? Alright. Now let us see case statements. Case statements are very, very simple, straightforward, and it helps you a lot. So that's the reason I will be using the same space variable which I have used earlier, but now I'll be using case statement. See here, vi case disk.sh. That means using the case statement, how can I use the same logic that I have used before. So just say cat and then case disk.sh. So what is it I'm exactly doing? Again, the space variable which I have used earlier, this will give you the maximum disk which is used. And here I am saying that if you see whether any disk number which is starting from 1 to 6, first numeric, but ending with any number, all is quiet. But if you see any disk space with the first numeric either 7 or 8 followed by any number, you have to start thinking to cleaning about the stuff. If it is 9 followed by any number that is 91 to 98%, then hurry up with the new disk. If it is 99%, I am drawing here, the partition left is very, very less. And if you don't see any of this, that is 100%, I seem to be running with no existing amount of space. And as you see here, case syntax is case followed by the value, if this condition, and whatever variable value you have, and that value should be this one, braces. And then if that is true, it will do this. If $space is this one, it will do this. If $space is this one, it will do this. If $space is this one, it will do this. If $space is neither of all these things, it will do this one. So can you just relate this with if, else if, and else? If this one, it will do this. Else if, else if, else if, else. So case statement works very much better when you have multiple else if clauses on top of a condition. So if you have if condition, after that if you have else if, next else if, next else if, next else if, instead of using else if like that, you can better use case statement like this. And make sure only this works fine only when you are running this on top of one variable condition, conditional treatment, but not different variable conditional treatments. You should definitely use else if. And as in the case of if, it has to be fi to end the if. Similarly, case to end the case statement, it has to be reverse of case, that is CASE. Whenever it finds ESAC, it will be saying that this is the end of case loop. And for each and every condition that you give, it has to be in the braces like this. So this is the condition value and it has to be braced like this. And you have to use double semicolon to end whatever it has to execute when this condition falls true. Now with this, let me execute this bash case. I know that all is quiet because my mount point space utilization is only 69% and it falls in the first condition. If the same mount point utilization is 85%, then what is that message I should see? This is the message I will see. And if the mount point utilization, the highest mount point utilization is 95%, this is the message I should see. Alright, I think now it feels much better for you. Very similarly, you can also work on the arguments that you pass in the first as well. So in case if you are running a script, inside the script, you are running the case statement like this, and it is completely dependent on $1. That means the first argument that you pass through the script, if the argument that you pass is start, then it will execute start function. This is the function name. And if you pass the argument as stop, it will execute the stop function. It will, if you go and write status as an argument, it will go and show you the status of the whatever file you call. If you say restart, it will stop and start. So something like this. So you can definitely use start, stop as well. And if you wanted to run a condition statement directly on the argument that you wanted to pass, definitely you use the case statement in that way as well. Alright, this is what we will be using in the script. That's the reason I'm not showing you this exactly now. But this one we are going to use when we develop scripts in the next coming sessions, that is the 7th chapter. So you'll have to just wait when we come to a stage where we use the case statements. Alright. So that's it for this session. So in this session we have understood how else works. If works, and if and else works, and then if else if and else works, and then how case works. And we have also seen how do we basically take care of collecting the values as an input arguments from the file and then use in the scripting. Alright, in the next session we are going to concentrate on how do we display user messages and how do we control the user inputs, with which we will be completing chapter number 4. Alright guys, thank you. Meet you in the next session. Bye.